Hi, this is Kylie Koo. Welcome to my studio. So, Arteza have asked me to review some more of the products, and I just want to say up front that Arteza do not pay me to do these videos. They do, however, supply these items free of charge. They don't tell me what to say, so what you get from me is an honest review. And it's also right to point out that I am an affiliate, so if you were to purchase anything via the links that I have below, then I do receive a small commission at no extra charge to yourself. But my hands are already covered in paint because I've been painting already today. But I've got 3 items that Arteza sent me. They're the set of 36 watercolours, and I'll say a little bit more about them in a moment. The set of 48 real brush pens. Now I'm actually going to review them in a different video because I did spend quite a bit of time on the watercolours. They also sent me this set of 20 sheets of cold press paper. It's acid free, the sheets are glue bound and are ideal for watercolour and mixed media. So cold press means that they do have a little bit of tooth to them. So these actually build into little frames. So unfolded, they're 9 inches by 12 inches, but once they fold up, 5 by 6.6. They're £140, 300 GSM. And I'm really quite keen to use these. I'm just showing you here how it opens. So they're all glued together in there, held together quite well, but you know, the glue is easy enough. I didn't even have to remove it, to be honest, because once the box is folded, you don't see that. Instructions for how to fold the box on the back. Now I'm going to speed this up. I did spend a few minutes doing this. Basically, you remove the corner pieces and then it's a series of folds. Now, if anybody did decide that they would like to buy these and they want to see me doing this at a slower speed, then do let me know and I will do a separate video. I found it a little bit difficult to build. I think it's one of those things, it's a bit like flat pack furniture. When you've done it once, probably the next time it will be easier, but you know, it just took me a few minutes to try and work out, and I could have done with a third hand, to be honest, to hold bits in place. But it's basically a case of folding the various sides in so that it makes a kind of square, and then there's little tabs and little slots for the little tabs to go in. It just took me a few moments to kind of work all of that out. So I'm just showing it here. If you did want to slow this down to see it, you could do, but as I say, if you were interested, then I could do a video going a little bit slower. I was kind of concerned that I might damage the box doing this, but actually by the time it was done, excuse the head being in the way, by the time it was done, it was really quite sturdy. So you see me just trying to work that out. I was a bit all fingers and thumbs as well, which didn't help. So that was a relief to get that done. So works out into being a nice little frame. And I'm going to use that with the watercolour paints. Now here's the 36 watercolours. I'll just take a moment to go through this. So half pans, they're in a metal box and they're reusable when they've dried on the palette, and I certainly found that I was able to reactivate them. On the back there's a list of all the colours. What I noticed that there wasn't was any pigment information or their level of light fastness. You'll see on the back I was pointing there to the fact that there's a guarantee, so if you buy from Arteza and you're dissatisfied, then you know, do let them know. Their customer service is very good. So got that. I'd already taken the cellophane off this. Just going to open this out. And it's a nice, quite sturdy metal tin with Arteza and just the 36 watercolours stamped on the front. It's got a little thumb hook on the back, so if you wanted to stand at an easel, you could actually open this out and put your thumb in. I would find this size of tin a little bit difficult. I have small hands, so I find something like that quite difficult to hold. But, you know, for the most part, I would have it either on a table or on my desk, flat on my desk, so it wouldn't be an issue. So, just looking at the box on the inside, all the paints are labelled. Those are the two main palette areas. And you can actually lift, it's like an insert, you can lift that whole area out and there's additional space for mixing in there. So plenty of space for that. And it does come with a water brush. Easy to unscrew and fill. And I'm going to do a project today, and I will actually just be using it to dip with, but I do a little experiment just seeing how it works using it as the actual water brush. So the paints are, as I say, half palettes, and the tin and the palettes are held in place by these metal kind of clip things. So you can see there, I was able to shake that upside down and nothing fell out. So I did have to move the little clips a little bit to get some of the paints out, just to take the wrappers off, but the wrappers all came off very easily, and then the paints just pop back in. Now there should have been a colour chart that came in this. It didn't come with this. It wasn't included with the set, but I want to do my own set of swatches anyway. I would always do a set of swatches. Again, just looking at that, and yes, they seem pretty sturdy at the moment. So I am going to put this at speed now. I'm going to use some paper from the mixed media pad that I previously got from Arteza just to do my swatches on. I'll cut down a couple of pieces so that they can actually sit in the tin. You see there I've just marked out some rough squares, and I'm just putting the names of all the paints down, doing that now before I actually take them out of their covers. There we go. So those two will just sit together along with the paints. So you see there, I'm just pulling the metal down a bit just to be able to get in at them, taking them out. And now what I'll do before I actually swatch them is I'll go through the whole set and I'll take them all out. I'll unwrap them and then put them back in. So, got them back in. There is a little bit of movement from side to side, and I am just trying to tighten up the little metal clasps just to make sure they stay in place as far as possible. And now I'm going to swatch them. Now I always use 2 jars of water when I'm using watercolours, one to clean off the brush and the other one to use fresh water on the paints. So you'll find that the brush is quite firm to begin with, just until you put it into the water and that softens it up. So before I even start my swatch cards, I'm just going to quickly try this. Sometimes I've had paints where I've had to give them a good spray before I use them, but right off I noticed that with these all I needed to do was to put a little bit of water on my brush, and that was lifting the colour no problem direct from the pan of paint. Just doing that with a few. You'll see that the pans were moving about a little bit in there, and I think I did go on to tighten them just a little bit more again. So liking how those actually blend out. And so far, so good. So just going to start to swatch them. And as I say, I won't show you me swatching them all, but I'm just letting you see how I would do it. So starting a bit darker and then just allowing the water to blend it out a little. So there we go, got all the colours, quite a range of colours. Some look quite similar, but you know, there are differences. And I think the good thing here is if you were someone who doesn't like to do colour mixing, then this gives you such a good choice. You know, you could basically work from this set without having to mix any at all. And the project that I'm about to do, you'll see that I don't actually do an awful lot of mixing with them. So right away I can see some colours in there that I think I'm going to use a lot. Now, just before I start my project, I'm just going to show you how this works as a water brush. So I've basically filled it with water, only about halfway. That just screws back shut. You see it says push there. I'm dropping a little bit of water out first of all, just going to do a wet on wet technique there. You see I then just touched the paint, dabbed it into the water, and it just kind of spread out. So just doing a few more circles. I'm not really cleaning off my brush in between. If I do want to clean it out, I just squeeze a little bit of water out it and wipe it onto my paint rag. So just trying different colours there. Adding a bit more water at times. Just trying to get the feel for the brush. Although, as I say, for today's project I am mainly going to be just dipping it in the water as you would do with a normal watercolour brush. Okay, let's get on to the project. So I'm actually going to use some of my own images. This is an anemone. I like the leaf, I like the flower, and I like the flower that was facing away. So I've actually sketched this out with a pencil, and now I'm just going to go over it with a pen. This is just a normal biro pen, ballpoint pen. You'll see it's there. I've done a bit of shading with the pen as well, and I'm now looking at the colours that I'm going to use to actually paint. Sometimes I will just paint direct on without any sketching, but today I felt like sketching it out to begin with, so that's what I've done. So I'm going to start by using magenta, and you'll see I'm picking it directly up from the pan of paint, and I'm just going to start to put down a first layer of colour, not making it too bright at this stage because I want to get a feel for how they're going to play. And generally I like to build my colour up in layers. So I'm going to get all the petals of my anemone done. Now you see from my photograph it was actually mainly a white flower, but you know, white wasn't really going to test these paints, so I've decided to make it a kind of pink colour, so using that magenta. Should also say you don't get a white in this set. I think there's always a lot of debate amongst people who use watercolour as to whether or not there should be a white or not. There isn't in this set. Normally your white would just come from the paper itself. So, got that in. And now I'm going to take the fern green and I'm going to start to put some colour on my leaves. And again, what I want to do here is just to get a base colour down. This is mainly because this is the way that I work, but it's also about just getting a feel for the paints. You know, when you've not used paints before, you don't want to go in too heavy to begin with, well, unless that's the look you're going for, but I like to build it up bit by bit. At this point I remember that I did previously get another set of water pens from Arteza, so I'm just showing you these here. I'm just going to briefly use one. The advantage of this set is that it comes in lots of different sizes, both round brushes and flat brushes. So I'm just going to take one that's slightly finer than the brush that came in the set of watercolours, and just to use it for a moment or two. But I will go back and use the brush that came with the set of watercolours, just so you can see how it's working. So again, just picking up a bit of that fern green and just going to continue on here. So I've swapped back to the brush that comes with the set. And here I'm adding some lemon yellow just to get some colour in the centre. I'm now taking the Amaranth and just putting that in some of the areas where, because the leaves are close to that centre point, the petals I should say are close to that centre point, they're going to be a little bit darker. So building a little bit more shade into those areas by using a deeper colour. And I'll build the colour on the petals with the magenta and the Amaranth throughout. So just adding in a further layer here, and I'll do this 2 or 3 times, just building up the colours, and I'll do that with the flower that's facing away as well. The little bits sticking up are the buds that have not yet opened. So just adding the colour to the back of that one there, and little bits of detail as I go along, just showing where there's kind of folds in the petals. So looking at my swatch chart again, and I'm going to use this cobalt green to start to build some of the darker areas on the leaves. So very much using the different range of colours to build the kind of lighter parts and the darker parts. Now this is where, you know, you could be mixing colours if you wanted lighter and darker, or because there's such a range here, it's possible to just use the colours direct. So I'm now going to use the deep ocean blue, and I'm going to start to put some sky around this. Not looking to get this even, I want it to look kind of slightly darker in some places and lighter in others. And I'm finding that this brush is a good size for kind of working round some of those areas, round the little buds and the petals, etc. And you'll see there. And yet, although it's quite I don't know, I guess it's maybe a kind of medium sized brush, you can still cover quite a quite a vast area quite quickly. So again, going back, now that the petals are dry, I go back and I start to add in even more colour. Again, just working between the magenta and the Amaranth. And really building that up. I probably ended up making these a deeper pink than I originally intended, but I was enjoying these colours so much I thought I'm just going to go for it. Don't hold back, this is really, you know, they're lovely colours, they're vibrant, and I thought this was going to look good. Now, when I put it onto that petal there, I thought it'd gone on a bit too deep, so I decided that now was the time to start using the palette and just watering it down maybe a little bit more. I noticed that as soon as I started to use these paints that actually they have quite a lot of colour in them, so I was quite surprised by that, pleasantly surprised by it. So just continuing to build up the colour on the leaves. The leaves are quite mottled in a way, so I was trying to get that notion of them not just kind of being flat, but having lots of variation in them. Just going back to that centre point, adding a little bit of colour there. Now I'm taking the chrome orange, and I'm just going to start to add some dots to the centre. But I do actually mix in a bit of the, I can't remember if it's the Amaranth or the magenta to that. this, I changed the colour a little bit just because I had changed the colour of the petals. So now taking the deep red, and I'm just going to put that in a little bit around the edges of the leaves. The leaves did have some kind of reddish markings on them, mainly around the edges, so I just want to kind of pick up that. Taking the olive green now, and I'm going to paint in the bottom half of the picture. Again, I don't want it even, and I will kind of blend it in where it starts to meet the sky, but this was just to give the notion of the plant sitting in amongst other greenery. Again, back to my magenta and amaranth and just adding a little bit of detail to all the petals. Going along those little edges, some of the petals are kind of folded over a little bit, so just reflecting that with those kind of darker colours. Now taking the sepia brown, and I'm just going to draw in those little leaves, little veins on the petals, on the leaves even. I'm getting my petals, my leaves and my veins all mixed up today, but never mind. And just little bits of detail here and there. And basically I'm now going to use those same colours just to add in all the kind of detail. You'll see me putting in it darker in places, so just building up where there might be shadows, where the flower head is coming over the leaves or where they're close together. So using those various colours just to build up the detail in the leaves, and this was a lot of fun to do. Put a little bit of an edge on the leaves. They're quite textured, they're quite thick, and I just felt that by doing that it took away them kind of looking flat. And of course also adding in variations of light and shade also helped to do that. Take a little bit of the noir there just to darken that right in there. Darkening that up a bit. Then going in even darker, again just getting the shadows, helping the leaves stand out a bit from the background. And just really enjoying working with this. Now I took a different blue there, I think it was a Prussian blue, just making the sky that little bit darker in places. Just going back in around that bit again where it would be slightly darker. A few little details on the leaves just to show that they're slightly pitted, and I am just about done. At the end I did just go over it again with the black pen just to add in a little bit of outlining. So what do I think of the products? This for me was an unusual product. It actually turned out well. I have to say I used a lot of water on it. I was concerned when I was doing the main kind of flower that it was going to get very saturated, but I have to say this held up really well. This is not something that I personally would have thought about buying beforehand, but I really like it. You know, you can make some really nice little pieces of art that are ready to hang. You don't need to worry about buying a frame. So the set of watercolours, what did I think of those? Okay, just getting them out the box there. It's a tight fitting box. Now what I did notice was I had turned them upside down at one point and some of the little pans had come out, so I would want to make certain that I make sure that they're tight. I think it's a great range of colours. There's plenty of palette space, you know, for mixing. You can leave the colours on there and go back to them. It's a really handy water brush pen, so I do like them. The range of colours are great. As I say, if you're not somebody that's into mixing colours, then there's just about every colour you could possibly want there. All in all, I really enjoyed using these paints. I'm looking forward to using them again. The swatches, I think, show how bright the colours are, and I think my demonstration shows that you actually don't need an awful lot of it to get some quite good deep colour. So all in all, I was really impressed with these paints. I'm not going to quote prices because I've noticed that sometimes Arteza prices vary, but if you are interested, I'll have links to all of these below, plus to all of the other products that I've used from Arteza in the past. So feel free to go through those links and you can then look to move around the site as you will. As I say, I do get a small commission for anything you do buy, but that's not at any extra cost, and no one should feel that they have to buy anything anyway. I'm just delighted to be able to show you these just in case there's something that are of interest to you. So as always, thanks so much for watching. Do take care, and I hope to see you again next time. Bye for now.